So in this episode, we're going to take a look at OneDrive for Business from both the admin and the user perspectives in order to gain the big picture of exactly what it is and how it works. Are you ready? Hello everyone, Andy here, so nice to see you and welcome back to my channel, especially, hey, if this is your first visit. On this week's episode, I thought I'd take a look at OneDrive for Business from both the end user and the admin experience so that we could get a really good kind of rounded idea of exactly what it is and how OneDrive works. Now, I've got loads of demos here, so make sure that you stick to the end because I've got some really good tips and tricks that you're not going to want to miss out on. All right. Now, if you've not subscribed to the channel, well, hey, come on board. We love subscribers, so bump that subscribe button up there, ring that bell, and you won't miss out on the good stuff in the future. And of course, questions, comments, get them down below and I will do my absolute best to answer them for you. So I think without any more jibber jabber, I think it's about time we jump in with some demos. Let's take a look. So I thought I would start off with a few end user tips and tricks, if that's okay. First of all, I'm starting here in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and as you can see, you're getting a list of your most recently used documents. Now, just quick things here, you can also see all of your documents recently opened, shared, and any favorites that you might have. Now, please note, the only downside about this that annoys me a little bit is you can't select these, you can only open them. So maybe that's something that they'll address in the future. But in terms of the OneDrive menu options, you do have some pretty cool things, including the ability to convert any document to a PDF. Now, that's pretty cool, actually. The one thing that you might have not missed, or you might have missed actually, are the views option over here on the top right hand corner. So by simply clicking on this, you get this really nice preview view of your document. So that's really nice. So again, you've got the choice of either viewing it as a list or as that document. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go into my OneDrive, and here is my OneDrive, of course, and essentially you've got, because this is OneDrive for Business, of course, you've got a couple of different views in here. So first of all, you've got your own documents here. I'm just logged on as Microsoft. This is just a demo account at the moment. And down here, you've got access to what we call your document libraries. What's the difference between OneDrive for Business and a document library? Well, actually, they both run in SharePoint. The difference is that document libraries are attached to Microsoft Groups and Microsoft Teams, whereas OneDrive for Business is more or less your own personal files. So just looking at the interface here, I'll just zoom in a little bit here. One thing about the interface which I really like is that you can select multiple things here. So if you want to delete multiple things, or if you want to move them or copy them, you can also do that. Please note that you can also create new items here as well. So Word, Excel, documents, and so on. You can also create links to a document here as well. If you want to upload your document, you can upload an entire folder of documents, either by browsing for the items here or by simply just dragging and dropping them into OneDrive for Business here. One of the things that we also have as an end user, which rocks by the way, is if you, depending on your license, you may have this, you have Power Automate. And you can create an automation, so a flow. So for example, you might say anybody who sends you an attachment, then store that attachment here in OneDrive. So definitely have a look at that. I've done videos on this in the past, so definitely check those out. Now, in terms of, again, it's amazing how many people don't know about this. But if you select a document, one of the things that you can do, obviously we can open the document, and you can open the document either in a web browser or in an app. Now, don't write off the web browser views. I got to be honest with you, some of the features in the web browsers you can't actually do in the apps, but you can do in the web browsers. And to be honest, these are pretty good. They're as good as any kind of installed version of Microsoft Office. I really like the web versions. Now, the other thing, you can also share the document. I'll come back to that in a second. You can copy the link. So if the document is shared already, you can copy the link. I can download it, print it, of course, delete it, print it. By the way, how do I print a web document? Well, obviously, if you've got a printer connected to your environment, then great. Other than that, you can use Microsoft's Universal Print feature. And this is where your administrator has set Universal Print in Azure. As long as you have got a compatible printer that supports Universal Print, then all you need to do is install the driver and you can basically print from anywhere to anywhere. It absolutely rocks. Of course, I can delete an item here, and when you delete the items, it goes into your deleted items or your recycle bin here. And of course, it stays there for 30 days. Now, in here, you'll also notice that we actually have a second stage recycle bin. So it's important to know that only two things happens to your data in Microsoft 365. They're either deleted or they're archived. So in this case, they go into the first stage recycle bin for 30 days and the second stage recycle bin for a further 63 days for a total of 93 days. So should you delete anything you think, oh no, I want that back, easy peasy, you can just click on the item and you can restore that back. It absolutely rocks. In addition to that, what if you're in the middle of a presentation or you're in the middle of doing a spreadsheet and then you suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I've gone and made a whole bunch of mistakes and I've changed it from, let's say, a couple of days ago. Well, if you were on a Windows machine, we know that this is called previous versions. You can have a previous version of a document, you can go back in and you can restore it. How on earth do you do that in OneDrive for Business? Well, super simple actually. All you do is come to the ellipse here at the very end and you can see we have this feature called version history. And sure enough, I have a number of different snapshots of previous versions of this document. So it's super easy for me to click on a particular version, then to restore that version. I can then download that version. I can also delete the version as well if I want to. That is super useful. That's called versioning history. Okay, now, what else can we do? Well, of course, we can share documents. And it's super easy to share documents. I can simply go into the little share icon here. I can put in the name of the person that I want to share this with. So, for example, if I want to, let's share this with Lydia here. I can type in a little message for her if she wants. I can also choose people in Contoso, in this case, with the link can edit. Of course, if you want to change that, you can choose things like, only people with existing access. Now, the security policy of this organization is I've actually gone ahead and I've disabled anonymous links. So in this case, the user must exist already. Now, I'll show you how to change that in a second. So people with existing access or individuals that you can choose. And you can choose, do you want to edit or do you want to view? Now, if you have got kind of the anyone feature, and in fact, what I'll do is I'll show you that. So to change that, of course, what we now need to do is we simply go back into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And what we'll do in the Admin Center is we need to go into SharePoint. Okay, so in here, I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to go into Microsoft SharePoint here. And in Microsoft SharePoint, we have a number of options. So for this, I'm going to come up into your policies. And in the policies, we've got the sharing tab. And as you can see, I have set this for my tenant. So this is set for the tenant level. So anyone I've actually switched off, but I can say, you know, actually I want to change this perhaps. So you can change that and you can make that sharing available. And again, I can then save that. So now if I come back into my OneDrive options, just refresh that page. And now what I can do is if I click on share again, I'll say, okay, who do I want to share this with? So I can say, I now want to share this with anyone. Now, when you share with anyone, essentially you can then email them a copy of this link. So you've got those 4 options. So people within your organization, that includes any guest accounts that you may have. People that have got existing access or individuals that you choose. So if you choose to share the link with anyone, if your administrator has it or set it up, you can choose whether the user, they can edit the document or whether you're just going to let them view that document. Now, in either way, you can also choose an expiry date. This is awesome because there's nothing worse than, let's say, a couple of years or a couple of months, and you go, oh no, Bob's still got access to that file. I completely forgot. And you can lose control. More importantly, you can set a password for this document as well. Now, I'm guessing that eventually this will probably link into MFA. So multi-factor authentication, I'm pretty much guessing that Microsoft will replace this. So watch out for that for more details. Now, the other thing that you can also do is you can block the download of the object as well, or of the file. And this is really good because this means that the user can just view the document online in a browser. They're not allowed to download copies. So it's a really nice additional bit of security in that regards. Okay, so that is, as I said, that's how you share content. And essentially all you then do is you then copy the link and you can send them that link either through Teams or through Outlook or any other method that you wish. You can also send them an email directly from here, of course, as well. So what I'll do is I'll come down to this one here. Let's just say I've got this document here called employee engagement. Now, one of the cool things about this is you have got a lot of online AI features. So things like you've got editing features, you've got voice recognition features where you can actually dictate. So just like the actual application as well. Again, it's also got a little bit of intelligence. So in terms of design, it's also got some cool design features. So for example, if you're using Microsoft PowerPoint, it can help you design something. And the other thing that I really like is, of course, you've got the editor feature. We've also got the new sensitivity labels now as well. So any sensitivity labels that have been set up by your compliance admin, you can now assign directly to documents here. And whatever restrictions that have been set up in that label will now be enforced. So for example, maybe the document has to be encrypted, or it has to only be seen by people within the organization, and so on. That's a really nice feature. So OneDrive for Business here. Now, the other things that we also have, of course, is this SharePoint Admin Center. So from the admin perspective, things that you can control here. Well, let's have a quick tour of the SharePoint Admin Center. And what we can see here is a complete list of all the websites. Now, you'll notice that some of these websites are also Microsoft Teams. And in fact, in Microsoft Teams, of course, you also create channels. So you might find that, for example, here, There's a team site with a number of multiple channels in here. So if I just go back to my portal here, and what I'm going to do is let's have a look at some of these admin settings. So I'm going to go into Oslo here, and you can see that it's giving me a full details, full rundown of all about this particular website. You also get the activity as well. So I can see when it was last used, how busy is the website, how many files have been stored on it, how long has it been since somebody has viewed those files, and so on. You can also set admins here. You can set different sets of permissions. So for example, owners, members, site admins, site owners, and so on. Again, this depends on the type of website that you've configured. So you can have different levels of role-based admin control here. If I click into the settings page here, very important because this is a Microsoft team and a Microsoft 365 group. So do you want people to be able to communicate with this? So in terms of emails, and you can do that. Now, because it's a team and a group, it also gets a number of shared resources, a shared mailbox, a shared SharePoint document library, a shared planner, and so on. But you can also link this to third-party applications. Now, you can also see that at the moment, this site is currently private. So this means that you wouldn't be able to browse to the site. Well, you might be able to see the name of it, but you won't be able to join it. But you can apply to join it, and you need to be then approved. Whereas public, anybody can browse and connect to a public group or public team, and so on. I mentioned that you've also got external file sharing. So this mirrors what I just showed you in Microsoft SharePoint. So I mentioned that I've set it up for anyone for the entire tenant. But you might say, well, this particular site, I only want new and existing guests. So you can set something at the tenant level, and you can then kind of make it more granular in terms of permissions here. As I mentioned, this is fairly new. You can also assign that sensitivity label here as well, which is really nice. And again, because it's a Microsoft Teams, do you want to allow members to edit, send messages, and so on? So you can control all of that. Now, the other thing that's kind of cool here is if you have a number of websites. So, for example, Oslo IT staff, Oslo project team, Oslo HQ. One of the features in SharePoint is that you can create something called a hub site. So this site, you can see, is registered as a hub. And the way that you do that is you just basically select the site, and you can come up here to hub, and you can say register as a hub site. So what that means is any kind of, and if I just go into the website, for example, and you can see kind of the look and the feel and the menus and the colors and the setup, anything that I would have created here for that hub site would then get duplicated for the subsites. So what I can do is I can again select another site here, and I can say the hub here, and I can say I want to either register this as a hub site or associate it with another site. And I can click on the drop down arrow, and you can see I can now assign this. And it facilitates things like search, the look and feel. It is an absolutely superb feature. It really is. And again, as I said, you can disconnect and reconnect. So it's not like SharePoint's old subsites features, which were fixed. It's a bit like folders and subfolders in Windows. Once you create a subfolder, it's fixed. You can't then disconnect it and reattach it to something else. So what else have we got here? Well, like I said, any deleted sites will go into the deleted items container here. You can select those and you can quickly restore those sites as well. as I said, you've got the external sharing policies here. So you can set the default link status. You can choose what the default permission that you want users to have for both files and also folders as well. Access control. This is how you can manage unmanaged devices. So if you have got users who are coming into your organization, and let's say they're guests, and they don't have a managed device, i.e. it's not managed through the Intune portals, then you can specify, okay, are you going to allow users to access your SharePoint, OneDrive, through unmanaged devices, and how are you going to deal with that? So you can either allow full, limited, or of course you can block access there. The other thing that you can do is you can also control idle session timeout. So somebody walks away from a portal, for security reasons, you might want to automatically lock them out. That rocks, by the way. I love that. The other thing, if you've got conditional access, you can also control this in conditional access. It's called trusted locations. So essentially you can set up trusted locations here. So in other words, people can only, well, this is slightly different actually to trusted locations. So this means that they can only access the content from within these locations. So you can put the IP address ranges here. Apps that don't support modern authentication. So absolutely do not allow access for these. So as you know, multi-factor authentication can reduce security issues by up to 99%. However, if you're still using older applications and you've got allow access, it can potentially bypass that and allow just password-based access. So definitely don't use that. All right. This is also, we have a new feature here where you can restrict OneDrive access. This is the new Pro feature. I can restrict OneDrive access to users in specific security groups within your organization. How cool is that? So only certain users will be able to have access to OneDrive for Business. The other thing I wanted to just mention, when we're talking about OneDrive, we used to have something called the OneDrive Admin Center. We don't have that anymore, but we do have an ever-increasing set of OneDrive settings that you can find in the settings area. So OneDrive here, you can obviously allow notifications, that's fine. The other thing that we've got is retention. So by default, of course, you get a retention limit of up to 30 days. But as I mentioned, only one of two things happen in SharePoint and OneDrive. Either your data is retained or archived for a specified amount of time, or it's deleted. So you can change that. And again, this depends on your license. Okay, so this depends on your license. So days to retain a deleted user's OneDrive. So essentially what you're doing here is you're putting an archive on this for a specified period for deleted. The other thing that we've got, I love this, by the way, storage limit. Now by default, of course, everybody knows that you get a terabyte of storage. But you might not know that you can actually put in 5096 here. So you can actually have 5 terabytes of storage per user for free. So if you have an E3 license or above, then you can switch on that. I know it would be great to see that for Business Premium. Hopefully, eventually it will come. All right, so they're really nice features. Finally, the sync tab here. So if you're using the OneDrive for Business app and you've downloaded it onto your desktop, sometimes it's a little bit flaky, isn't it? Well, it uses a protocol called OneDrive Sync, and it's the same protocol that actually uses OneDrive. So OneDrive Personal. So and it means that you can actually have the situation where you've got users who have got OneDrive and OneDrive for Business, and you don't need the two apps. You only need the one app. So the sync feature is really quite useful because it can resolve quite a lot of issues. So do you want to show the sync button on the OneDrive website? Do you want to allow syncing only to computers joined to specific domains? Again, an additional security feature. So again, you can either do this by domain name or IP address ranges, and you can either do it by an allow list or by a block list. So block certain domains, all right? And again, you can block uploads of certain file types. So you don't want anybody uploading their entire movie collection or their entire audio collection or something like that, all right? So that's useful. Now, I would also like to draw your attention to the various links here, as these will link you through to learn.microsoft.com, and there is an absolute ton of documentation here, everything that you need in order to learn how to fix these any kind of issues. All right. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, specifically OneDrive focused here, of course, we also have some reports here as well. So we have a new, it's kind of a refreshed reporting area here, and this can give you reports on who are your heaviest users, who are the busiest sites and things like that. And we also have things like data access and governance. Again, this may differ depending on your license. So again, I'm using, for example, sensitivity labels. It might, you can give me a report. I've not got any at the moment. It will give me a report on how many users with sensitivity labels do we have in our organization. All right. So there you have it, OneDrive for Business. Isn't that cool? Hey, listen, we'd love to have you on board as a subscriber, so bump the subscribe button up there, ring that bell, and come and join the community that I'm trying to build out. And if you enjoyed the session, please give me a big thumbs up. It really does help everything. Now, questions, comments about this and any of my other sessions, of course, just get them down below there, and I'll do my best for you. That's it for this week. You stay safe. I'll see you soon. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.